It all started in the living room of Villa Liu. The main character, Liu Lei, called out to his Aunt Wu in bewilderment. He was very outraged that his bank card was frozen. Liu Lei's stepmother, Wang Qing, agreed to discuss all matters with him after dinner. Liu Lei was very angry and not interested in dinner because the bank employee told him that his card was blocked by his aunt. Little sister Liu Mei coquettishly advised her brother to eat first and then argue. Younger brother Liu Xiyu also supported his sister, saying that there was no point in rushing now. Liu Lei was stunned by his family's indifference to his problem and did not understand why his younger brother believed that the rush was pointless. While drinking wine, the aunt turned to Xiyu, agreeing that they could not decide anything right now, and pondering what to do next. She asked little Lei if he understood whether his father was alive or dead, because it no longer mattered if it harmed the company. So she asked her father's lawyer to transfer all his shares to Lei's name. The guy felt abandoned, and his father disappeared only 3 years ago, and she already wanted to transfer all his assets to herself, but her aunt had already done this. The aunt was unshakable, and she suggested to Lei to make the farewell meal memorable and asked if he had any wishes, but Lei requested green tea and felt that she perceived him as a relative, but she took advantage of his father's absence. Liu Xiyu defended his mother and warned the boy to watch his language, otherwise he would not have to speak. The woman asked him not to demonize her, as if she didn't feel anything for him, but the guy didn't have to worry because his aunt took care of him. Suddenly, his aunt handed him a card with 5 million. The main thing was that Lei needed to sign a contract, and he would be secured for life. Inspired, the guy realized that his aunt had thought of everything in advance. They wouldn't survive if they only thought about themselves, the woman said. The whole family began to rush him, otherwise he would not get his 5 million. And they asked him to accept the generous offer, because it would be better for everyone. The hero has already extended his hand, preparing to sign the contract, however. When Qing understood that everything would not be so simple, and asked the guy about his conditions. With a slight smile, the guy noted that he did not need 5 million. He wants the Liu family's lands. The family was amazed. They didn't expect him to ask for all the lands. All family members looked at him mockingly and laughed, realizing how naive it was. Because there was only a small supermarket worth no more than 3 million, and the relatives were really surprised and wondered if the guy was okay. At this time, the wise woman realized that these conditions suited her even better, and she ordered Xiyu to prepare a new contract. When the contract was ready, the guy had to sign it again. Considering that all the conditions were satisfactory, he accepted his family's offer and signed the contract. At this time, wine was poured into glasses. After a successful transaction, the aunt invited everyone to drink to a good day. Liu Lei was clearly dissatisfied with something. His expression showed this as he stared at his aunt. With rage, he spilled the contents of the glass directly into the woman's face. Just looking at her made the hero feel sick. The woman was not surprised by this action and continued to smile as if nothing had happened. Licking her fingers from spilled wine, she said that this is what those who lose everything say. Anger overcame the guy, and he shouted that she may have won the battle, but she would lose the war, remembering his words. With a loud bang, Liu Lei left, slamming the door behind him, avoiding his hated aunt. The younger brother was surprised and outraged because his mother let Lei go even after everything he had done. The aunt clearly didn't mind him taking revenge if that's what he wanted. She didn't worry about it at all, and the news about his father's disappearance spread faster and faster, and soon no one would support him. Meanwhile, Liu Lei was approaching the Liu family land. His grandfather said that this plot could not be sold, and this land was passed down from generation to generation because it was truly special to the Liu family. The guy opened the doors of the store, from which an incredibly bright light shone. The light was simply blinding. Surprise gripped Lei because he did not understand where such a bright light could come from in the store. Suddenly, when Lei entered the supermarket, scanning began, and the system identified him as Liu Jing Lei, 6 feet tall, 22 years old. The authorization was successful. The Lord was successfully recognized, and the transfer to another world began. Lei found himself in an unknown place where there were many jars with various substances. He experienced a huge shock because he had absolutely no idea what was happening to his house. The place was bright, and there were objects that had not been there before. In shock, the guy found the nearest door and started knocking, asking if there was someone behind it, and asked if it would be opened for him. Suddenly, the door was opened by an unfamiliar guy with a bird on his shoulder, who was surprised by the appearance of a new visitor and exclaimed that he had finally found someone he could rely on. Liu Lei, choking on the smell, screamed, asking why the stranger's place stank so much, and the stranger pressed himself against his leg and begged for help, claiming that he would commit suicide if Lei did not help. The plump guy was glad that Lei understood, because this had been bothering him for many years. But Lei said that if he let him go, he could help. Lei's kindness amazed the stranger, and he immediately thanked him, knowing that now he would have a happy life. A voice in his head insisted on the stranger's request and warned him to be careful when performing the task. But Lei thought about what to do with the stranger and whether he should be taken to a doctor. There was no way to move on to the next step without completing the task at hand, and there was supposed to be a reward for completing the task. But the voice in my head kept repeating it over and over again like spam. Liu Lei came up with a simple solution to the problem: mint chewing gum, which effectively eliminates bad breath and gives freshness. The strange young man ate every last piece of chewing gum without removing the wrapper. He was very happy because now his mouth did not smell bad, like from a garbage pit. The stranger, taking Leia by the hand, asked how much this wonderful artifact cost. The hero realized that he had the opportunity to come up with something else. Then he showed the guy 3 fingers, and he thought that maybe his medicine was of good quality, but 3 low-grade spirit stones was too much, and then he asked if he could pay with something else. The stranger offered something else as payment, something that all men want. It was a magical elixir that glowed incredibly beautifully. With the help of this elixir, you could have fun with beautiful girls for hours without getting tired. Leah flushed with shame and asked the stranger why he needed this at all. Suddenly, the guy was overcome by a strange feeling that he had never experienced before. A voice in his head said that the master's time in the cultivation world was up. The people would be purified, the world would be rebooted, the first solitary life would be completed, and the master would receive the Eye of Rebellion as a reward. The guy again found himself in the same store where he had originally arrived. The Lord successfully completed the task in the store, and the voice in his head sincerely hoped that the Lord would work hard to gain power as soon as possible, and when the store's profit reached more than 1 million, the store would be upgraded, and the spirit and field and lei would also be available. I understood everything and asked me not to bother him anymore. After 3 days, an unfamiliar car drove up to Liu Lei's store. A woman began to emerge from it. She was extremely attractive. This girl turned out to be Meng Fuyao, Liu Lei's childhood sweetheart. As she approached the store, the hero felt extremely uncomfortable, holding the potion in his hands, which he received as a reward for his help. The guy didn't understand why the girl had come, but she told him that she had heard that he was now living in his native land, and that his supermarket had recently opened. And after that, she asked how things were going with him. Having overcome the awkwardness, the guy replied that everything was fine. He was working from scratch to get rich, while he also heard that Fuyao was angry when she learned that he had left Wuqing, but she was now acting restrained and supporting him. The attentive girl invited Lei to join her, given his situation. Lei came very close to the girl and directly asked what she was up to, Did she really want to repeat the past, despite the fact that they broke up? The girl's reaction was immediate. His words angered her. She kicked the impudent young man with force. The guy immediately screamed in pain. With upset feelings, the girl began to leave, saying that he remained as heartless as he was before. The guy clearly needed to rest for a few days first, and then she was going to find him a normal job. He didn't understand at all how he, Liu Lei, could cause so much trouble for Miss Meng. The girl got into her car and drove away from the store with slight anger. Along the way, next to a passing car, she noticed several men sitting in a car. Those same men were approaching Liu Lei's store. One of the men in the car dreamed that Liu Lei's name would be erased from the face of the earth today. Aggressive men approached the supermarket. One of them began shouting at Liu Lei to come out and give something back. Lei gradually left the supermarket and answered the insolent men that he had just opened and let the boss come and take what he needed. The guy had no fear and ordered the men to leave here. They came with the goal of destroying this place and had no intention of leaving. But if he fell to his knees and called for his father, then perhaps they would change their mind and not destroy the place and even give him some food. The undaunted guy boldly answered his enemies that people usually say what they lack. And he asked his boss if he wanted to be a father so much because he couldn't have a child. The boss of the raiders could not stand this attitude and ordered the men not to listen to this nonsense and to seize him. The men armed with bats began to quickly approach Lei. Suddenly, a voice in the guy's head told him to use his abilities. When he looked at one of the attackers, he saw the complete characteristics of this person, and his name was Shu Chang. And according to the analysis of his body's condition was poor, divine medicine was required to cure him. The attacker approached Lei, but he deftly dodged his blow. The voice in his head again began to tell the guy that he had great potential, and he needed to actively expand the store's sales. And at this time, Lei thought that there was no logic to fighting and expanding the store's sales, and in this situation, it was extremely stupid. In the blink of an eye, Lei realized that he needed to act. And he decided to start. Instantly, he used a technique that broke his back. The enemy quickly fell to the ground and screamed in pain. He also used a fatal blow on the next enemy. The enemies groaned in pain. Lei also had a dizzying move in his arsenal, and with stunning success, he also knocked out his opponent. The enemies did not even think about retreating, but the guy was not going to give up. Deciding to act decisively, he used a bone-breaking technique. The arrogant men did not have the courage to defeat him. After single blows, they fell to the ground and could no longer resist. The enemies felt defeated after the fight with Liu Lei. Even the bandit boss who attacked felt like crying. Soon he burst into tears because he had never lost before. Lei began to sympathize with the bandit and wanted to help him by telling him what to do. Giving him a helping hand, he suggested that he take a potion that might help. This drink is supposed to help an exhausted guy reunite with his girlfriend, and it will make him an attractive man who will attract many girls, because this drink turns a man into a sexy macho. The bandit was extremely happy and asked Lei if this potion would work, and the guy replied that he was not cheating, and as soon as he used it, the effect would be immediate. But after that, he would have to pay. Realizing the need for payment, the bandit threatened Lei that if this did not work, he would regret everything. And the guy began to get nervous, but did not doubt the effectiveness of the potion. The bandits ran in fear after their boss, as they were very afraid of Lei, and he in turn understood that in other systems they were somehow cultivating, and he was just selling some goods. At the supermarket, the guy was approached by a stranger again. With a surprised look, the hero immediately asked who this stranger was. There were several of them, and one of them said that he was pleased to see the youngest son of the family in such disorder. The brazen stranger turned out to be a Meng fan Fuyan. Long Lei and a few more henchmen are behind him. The guy mockingly asked if Long Lei really thought that he would return to his aunt again. The impudent man considered Lei pathetic because Meng Fuyan was his fiancée, but he was blind and lost her. The boy was overcome with memories. He remembered how Meng Fuyan refused him as she had no intention of getting married. With extraordinary zeal, she wanted to find her true love. At that moment, the guy was not even upset that she refused him. This greatly shocked the girl, as she wanted to offend him with her refusal to marry. A day later, the guy told his father about the divorce and he beat him. Fuyan felt very sorry for Lei, as she did not think that he would be beaten because of the divorce. From that moment on, she was completely free, and now she could find her own love. The young girl was shocked by Lei's words. She looked at him and almost sobbed. Lei was amused by the whole situation when he remembered the past, and Long Lei began to get nervous as he did not understand why the guy was smiling. The impudent Long Lei was happy because Lei was already done with her, and now she was only his girlfriend. The hero mockingly asked the impudent man if this was true. This only made him angrier, as well as his friends behind him. Long Lei didn't know what to answer him and began to grumble like a girl so that he would believe him. The guy could no longer tolerate these excuses from the impudent Long Lei, and a blow straight to the jaw immediately followed. One single blow was able to neutralize the daring man. When Long Lei lost his honor and dignity, he ordered Lei to be punished so that he would know who was boss. The hero was immediately surrounded by guards, ready to beat him half to death. The guy's lightning-fast reaction immediately followed, and he struck a low blow to one of the guards. The hero realized that his bodyguards were difficult, and he needed to take this seriously. Lei was a skilled fighter who could land powerful blows against experienced opponents with ease. The mercenaries slowly surrounded him, but he neutralized them one by one. Trained guards were hopelessly defeated in a fight with an ordinary guy. The cunning Long Lei sneaked up behind Lei, intending to hit him with a glass bottle. However, Lei was able to deliver a powerful blow that broke the bottle into pieces. The blow hit the hero right in the back of the head. Undeterred, Lei turned to the treacherous criminal and declared that using a weapon and attacking from behind was despicable. Long Lei did not consider it necessary to show justice to someone like Lei by calling him a dog. The impudent man ordered the guy to stand up and his guards to restore order with him. Suddenly, someone screamed, expressing displeasure at Lei's attack and threatening the attackers. The one who screamed was Xu Chang. It was he who stood in front of the so-called brother and declared that no one here would dare touch him. Chang awkwardly and didn't understand how he got here, and it was very clear that from the looks of it, that thing had worked. The impudent man asked Xu Chang if he was angry with Liu Lei, but the bandit replied that he should mind his own business. Xu Chang did not agree that he was angry with Brother Lei, and if someone even touched him, then they could be considered to have touched Xu Chang. Long Lei began to get even more nervous as well. Xu Chang was dangerous, and if he did anything to him, the consequences could be extremely serious. The insolent man cowardly shouted that since Xu Chang was here, they were even with him. The coward did not forget to remind about Meng Fuyan ordered the guy not to even think about her. The pathetic loser and his mercenaries cowardly left. Xu Chang was very happy to help his brother Lei, and he arrived just in time. Suddenly, Lei began to feel that something was happening to him. His eyes gradually began to close. When the guy found himself, there was an incredible girl before his eyes. She took Lei's temperature and tried to understand what was wrong with him and how to heal him. The girl was incredibly shocked when she saw that Lei had woken up, and he wanted to know where he was, and the beauty replied that it was her brother's house. Despite her embarrassment, the girl said that her brother asked her to take care of Leia. She was just going to treat his wounds, so he should not move, because men make others worry about them. The girl carefully applied the medicine and treated the guy's wounds. Lei was incredibly grateful to her, and he was glad that such a beautiful girl was taking care of him, after which he asked her name. The beauty's name was Han Chao Chiao. Chang entered the room and excitedly announced that he had good news for Brother Lei. Events continued at the nightclub, where Xu Chang brought his brother Lei to introduce him to his friends. Lei was overly excited when Chang introduced him to his friends and told him that he had given him a special remedy. The new acquaintance was not so simple. He cast an analyzing glance to understand who his friends really were. He seemed to penetrate their essence and understand who they were. He analyzed each of his new acquaintances. The guy realized that they were all striving for the attention of the girls. At this moment, he realized that Xu Chang was truly achieving what he wanted. With awkwardness in his voice, he informed them that he knew everything about them since they were friends of Xu Chang. The new comrades did not believe that this guy was capable of such conclusions. They had no idea about the existence of such a method. Xu Chang was outraged. He could not understand what was happening to his friends and why they did not believe him. Brother Lei patted Chang on the shoulder, explaining that it was no big deal. He simply wasn't going to sell it to them, even if they begged him. At this time, Chang's lover entered the room, bringing him ginseng. She gently asked him to open his mouth and say, "Ah!" The womanizer friends were outraged. They could not understand how Sister Fang could give in to Chang and believed that she was forced to do so. The girl suddenly turned her gaze to her pretend friends and glared at them with fury. The guys felt uneasy. They couldn't understand why the girl was looking at them like that. Furiously, she kicked the table and asked the impudent guys if they wanted to get punched in the face, and if they wanted to go to the next world, then she could help them. Each of the new friends admitted that they were wrong and apologized to Sister Fang. Fang said goodbye to Chang affectionately so as not to disturb his party. The friends were shocked and could not understand why such a beauty as Fang was dating Chang. No one understood what was happening to Fang. They thought that she had taken drugs, which she had never done before. Chang proudly told his friends that she did not take anything, using a means with which you can win any girl. This dispelled doubts, and everyone wanted to purchase this potion. Lai dreamed of becoming rich thanks to his supermarket. Each of the guys bought a double dose of the drug from the young entrepreneur. The next day, new events occurred at the Liu family's supermarket. The supermarket owner was thinking that last night he had sold all his goods and was about to go to another world to replenish his stock. Lei asked the system to transfer him to another world, and it began to transfer. While crossing into another world, he felt a strange, unpleasant smell. His eyes began to water. His head was spinning so much that Lei covered his face to soften the unbearable smell. The plump boy introduced Leia to senior alchemist Wang Henga and told him about Lei's medical resources. As the old man approached, the smell became even more unpleasant. Activating the Eye of Rebellion, Lei realized that the foul odor was due to uneven breathing while practicing the Shuo Qi cultivation method. He immediately explained that this problem arose after cultivation. Wang Heng was amazed by Lei's insight and asked where he got such information. Lei introduced an innovative remedy that would help get rid of this problem and explained that it should be applied daily to the affected area of the body. And the old man was glad that now he would not stink of slop, and called Lei immortal. The enterprising Lei was not going to give the old man the medicine just like that, and asked what he could offer in return. The guys got ready, and the old man took with him purifying bone marrow in liquid form, which helps novice cultivators strengthen their bodies, and the plump guy brought a box of potency pills. Lei decided not to be arrogant and asked if everything was okay. His customers immediately began to get nervous because they thought that what they brought might not be enough. Lei assured them that everything was fine. However, He explained that his ointment could only suppress the symptom and not eliminate the problem completely. But if he could learn more about the cultivation method, then perhaps he could help more effectively. Lei needed to learn about the method itself, the medicinal herbs and spiritual stones that were used during cultivation. And at this time, he thought that if he could improve some techniques, it would be easier for him to trade, and it would also be useful for him to learn about cultivation methods of this world as soon as possible. The people from the other world were incredibly grateful to him and thought his heart was very generous. Suddenly, the guy was overcome by an unusual feeling. Soon he found himself back in the ordinary world. He was outraged that every time he managed to complete an exchange, he was thrown out of this world, and the guy asked the system if something could be done about it. The system gave a disappointing answer, explaining that the reason for such a short time of the master's stay in this world was the small level of the store, which so far was only the first level. Using sarcasm, the guy suggested that the system should give him $5 so he could buy himself another hour. The system gave a disappointing answer, explaining that in order to unlock even more functions, the user needs to make transactions worth 1,000,000 yuan as soon as possible. Lei realized that he needed to become stronger and more influential as soon as possible in order to crush Wu Qing and return his father's company. And in the meantime, his old friend came to see him and noticed that he was quite actively buying goods. The girl noticed a large number of new products in his store, and she concluded that apparently Mr. Lin's business has expanded a little. Suddenly, the guy approached the girl and pressed her against the wall, holding out the potion to her, and he replied that it was so, after which he invited her to try the potion. Handing the potion to her, he replied that it was so, after which he invited her to try the potion. The girl was clearly excited and told him to put this thing back in the box and hide it somewhere away. And today was Lin Qi's birthday, and she asked him to accompany Leia and Hao should have fun. The supermarket owner was aware that he didn't have the right clothes for the event, and there was really nothing funny about it. The caring lady expected the guy to say this and brought clothes with her. This suit looked brand new, as if she was trying to impress him, and so he couldn't afford to offend her. Such thoughtfulness from Miss Meng was rare. Now Lei had everything he needed, and he happily thanked the girl. It was awkward for her, as she had never done anything like this for anyone before. Q's birthday party was held at the Fengdu Hotel. Lei and Miss Meng looked amazing. One of the party guests wondered why this place had become so popular, and then it turned out that Miss Meng had come here. Lei recognized his old acquaintance Long Shao and asked him what he was doing here, and the impudent guy replied that if Liu Lei could be here, then he could too. The impudent man suddenly turned and asked if the godfather was here. He was actually behind and invited them to come inside, and it was the president of Tengfei Real Estate Group, Long Saichang. The event was very beautiful, and there was live music. Meng and Lei looked like husband and wife. Xu Chang noticed his brother and called him from afar. The courageous guy noticed that his brother called him and decided to come over to say hello. All the guests at the table were glad to see Lei. Even Xu Chang's sister invited her brother to sit at the table. Hugging Lei tightly, her sister praised his fighting skills, as she had heard about him from her brother's stories. Miss Meng became angry and jealous. Indignantly, she asked what the name of such a beautiful girl was, and my sister replied that her name was Han Chao. Companion Leia was ready to finish off her rival on the spot. With your breasts, Chow Chow hugged Lei even tighter and wondered why the girl was indignant. Miss could not tolerate such insistence and politely asked to leave his hand. The impudent girl did not want to leave Lei and asked his companion if he was her boyfriend. Meng replied that no, he was her guest of honor, so he would sit at the same table with her. The guy approached Meng, smiled, and let her know that today he was on the other side of the barricades. Therefore, She needs to wait for the moment when he earns a place next to her on his own. After this phrase, the girl began to be even more jealous, and Lei laughed and offered to take the miss to her table. The girl did not want to accept help at all, and in upset feelings, she began to leave for her table. Long Xiao did not miss the opportunity, but if Lei did not plan to keep this beautiful lady company, then Xiao could do it. The old friend behind became agitated and asked what he meant, and Lei asked him to forget about it and stop shouting so as not to humiliate Ling Chuyo. Xiao mockingly asked how he could look when he was always so clueless, and why he still thought Lin Chuyo his sister. Suddenly, a girl with beautiful blue hair walked up to Lei. It was clear that the guy was dumbfounded. The girl instantly rushed into Lei's arms and exclaimed with joy that they had not seen each other for a very long time. Lei was delighted with this unexpected meeting. Only a month has passed since their last meeting, and the girl has become even more beautiful. It was the lady of the Ling family, Ling Kuya. The former companion noticed that Lei was communicating with a new girl. This greatly disappointed her because she expected more. Xiao was again indignant that Liu Lei was too arrogant and why he did not take Longsan Chan into account. The friends were delighted and mockingly asked, "What about Master Longsan Chan? Was he really afraid to do something?" Suddenly, they discovered something they clearly did not expect. Behind the daring Xiao, this was the same godfather. In his time, Master Longsan Qian was known for his bravery and extreme cruelty, but this was not a problem for Lei. Suddenly, another stranger came up and said it wasn't a big deal. This stranger was the same son of Wu Quan, the current heir of the Sheng Lei group, Liu Xiyu. Indignant, Lei asked what Liu Xiyu did here. The blonde replied that today was his engagement day, so of course he would be here. The hero was stupefied because he did not expect to hear this, and it was extremely interesting to find out who the engagement would be with. Liu Xiyu smiled and said that the engagement would, of course, be with Miss Ling Kuya, the sweetest and most beautiful. Dearest and most beautiful Miss Lingku. The girl apparently did not expect such news and was shocked by what was happening. The young lady started screaming, attracting the attention of the entire building, since she had never even heard of it before. The blonde looked satisfied and with a malicious grin assumed that her father had told her about the upcoming engagement. With an evil laugh, he added that this holiday on her birthday would also be her engagement day, since her father intended to unite their families through this marriage. Lei stood up for the girl, claiming that Q's sister did not want this, and Xiyu had better not approach her. The future groom's anger was enormous, as this was a matter between Sheng Lei group and the Lin family, and outsiders should not interfere. Lei realized that Xiyu was not his competition. Meeting Lei's gaze, he confidently stated that he had no intention of approaching. Xiyu laughed mockingly at Liu Lei, doubting that anyone in the hall would be able to defeat him, considering that Masters Longsan Qian and Long Xiao were still nearby. Xiao also harbored hostility towards Lei and planned with his friends to eliminate this young, outcast master. Xu Chang was annoyed that his holiday was ruined and ordered his opponents to approach, claiming that he was not afraid of any of them. Lei's friend was a big guy and ordered Xiao to hit him if he decided to try. At this time, someone entered the room. Master Lin walked in, and everyone shouted with joy because it was the chairman of the Lin Pharmaceutical Company, Lin Yuanlei. The dejected young man began to complain to Uncle Lin that Liu Lei, like a toad, was preventing him from discussing his engagement with Lady K. One older man told his daughter that her mother had agreed to the idea of getting closer to the Sheng family. The girl, almost begging and crying, told her father that she did not want to marry him. She snuggled up to the main character and said that she would like to marry someone like Liu Lei. The entire audience was shocked by this serious statement. Uncle Lin approached his daughter and began to teach her that marriage is a responsible matter and not just a game, but the girl continued to claim that she loved Lei. The embarrassed girl claimed that she fell in love with him at first sight. Earlier, he was engaged, but now he free. The girl continued to look at the scene with incredible hatred in her eyes. The old man was surprised, asking himself how Liu Lei could be worthy of her in such a situation, when the Sheng Lei group was no longer under his control. But the girl did not care, because she loved her brother Lei. The man took his daughter's hands and asked her to listen to his words. After all, she is the heiress of the Ling Pharmaceutical Corporation, and thus, if she marries Liu Lei in the current situation, it can only cause him harm. Especially considering that even if she is in love with him, this does not necessarily mean that he reciprocates her feelings. And Lei at this time was reflecting on his father's words and realized that he was trying to admit that he did not share Q's feelings. Chuya looked at her brother with innocent eyes and waited for his answer. With a smile, he met her gaze and replied that he also loved Q. Everyone present at the event was shocked by what was happening. The old man suddenly felt bad from what he heard, and he grabbed his heart. He literally started falling to the floor. Lai supported the old man and whispered something to him quietly. Taking his hand, he announced that he would show his uncle into the room, and Xiao became indignant and asked him to stop immediately, asking if he really thought he could leave so easily. Miss Meng suddenly intervened and asked everyone to be quiet, pointing out that this was an event for Chairman Lia Lin, who was not feeling well, and asked those present not to create unnecessary problems. Since this was the love of his life, Xiao decided to calm down, and Shiyu also decided to give Chairman Lin a little relax and figure it out with everyone problems. Later, 10 minutes later, the chairman and Lei returned from their rest, and the old man looked incredibly happy. With a smile on his face, he announced that today's engagement was canceled. When the old man became ill, Lei watched him, trying to understand how he could be helped. He used his rebellion ability, and he began to conduct an analysis, and Lin Yuanlei was already 50 years old, and a detailed analysis showed that he was in poor health, but the reason for this was not yet clear. Finally, Lei realized the cause of the old man's illness and found a way to cure his genetic disease. Now the old man no longer needs to turn to Lin Qiyu for help. Such impatience for Qiyu's engagement was not in line with Lin Yuanlei's style, and Lin Pharmaceutical Corporation had already been successfully developing in Fengdu for over 300 years, and there was no reason to merge with Shenglei Group. The only reason Uncle Lin could agree to this was because of an inherited disease for which Lin's Pharmaceutical Corporation could not find a cure, and if it became known, it could seriously damage her reputation. The old man suddenly grabbed Lei by the jacket and warned him that it was better not to joke and find a way to cure him, since this was a very serious matter. Otherwise, he will not only sue him for slander, but also possibly force Liu Xiyu apologize. Lei asked Uncle Lin to remain calm. This genetic disease is actually due to congenital weakness of qi, and the liquid that cleanses the bone marrow is the best treatment he inherited from his grandfather, and it not only restores qi, but also strengthens the body. Liu Xiyu is only capable of adulterating medicines, while Lei can provide real medicinal pills from the Liu family heritage. Remembering his grandfather, the chairman decided to trust him and took the medicine. Suddenly, the old man felt instant relief. His internal organs were filled with energy. After this, he decided to cancel today's event. The daughter was extremely grateful to her father, but he refused to accept gratitude, claiming that all the credit belonged to brother Lei. Blonde Shi was indignant and asked what Lin Yuanlei meant. The old man looked at him carefully and apologized to Mr. Liu, and yet he only had one daughter, and if she was not willing to marry Shiyu, then there was nothing he could do. The impudent Shiyu began to manipulate and reminded the old man that he had turned to the Liu family for help, but the old man was not stupid and calmed the guy down, telling him not to worry about this, since the Lin family could deal with their problems themselves. The guy could not understand how Liu Lei humiliated him and asked him to wait. Sheng Lei Group wouldn't just let it go, but Lei smiled back and said that Master Liu was now a public figure, so he should watch his words to live up to his image. Xiu began to walk away like a cowardly rat, and the chairman wished him a good day. The girl was extremely happy and rushed into the guy's arms again, exclaiming that Brother Lei was the best. Meanwhile, Xiao seized the opportunity and began to approach Miss Meng, and he noticed that she was in a bad mood and offered to drink wine. The girl did not want to tell him about her bad mood and said that she was just emotional, but thanked Mr. Loon for helping her save face. They knocked their glasses together and started drinking together. After some time, Xiao ordered the driver to take the girl to his villa, since today he would definitely conquer her with his manly charm. Xiao, looking at the girl and licking his lips, noted that she probably thought that he would not dare to do anything to her at this party. The girl was very excited and called the guy a bad person. She begged for him to be released, but he told her not to worry because he loved her very much. But suddenly the car stopped abruptly. The guy didn't understand why this happened and what happened. He shouted to the driver, asking what was going on. Liu Lei appeared on their way, blocked the road with his car, and began to get out of the car. Furiously, he ordered Meng Fuyao to be released. The impudent man turned out to be not so simple and began to laugh, declaring that he was waiting for him to catch him in his trap. A guy with a bat appeared behind Lei and began preparing for an underhanded shot. Blood spilled onto the floor after the unexpected blow. After the blow, Lei lost his balance. Xiao ordered the mercenaries to damage his arms and legs because he wanted him to watch how he would wrong Meng Fuyao. Lei looked straight into Xiao's eyes and said with anger that Meng Fuyao was not for him, such a bad person to touch. The mercenary again rushed at the guy to deliver a strong blow to his head. Something happened that the enemy did not expect at all. Fortunately, a special bone marrow cleansing liquid has a positive effect on the muscles and bones of an ordinary person, making his body as strong as steel. After Lei stopped one of the mercenaries and broke his bat, Xiao ordered everyone else to attack the guy. But he was ready to defeat everyone without exception. He overcame his enemies with ease. With a simple kick to the face, he could knock out all his teeth. The enemies seemed completely powerless in front of Lei. After defeating all the enemies, Liu Lei took the bat and told Long Xiao that he was next. Xiao cowardly grabbed the girl and began to use her as a shield, warning that no one should approach him, otherwise he would kill her. This angered the guy even more, and he demanded that Meng Fuyao be released immediately. Suddenly, he hit him hard on the head and he fell unconscious. Like a true hero, he called the police to apprehend Xiao, who turned out to be the kidnapper. The rescued girl was very hot and stuffy, but she had to be patient a little because they were almost there. The guy and the girl quickly entered the supermarket and he carried her in his arms. They returned home and Meng Fuyao could finally relax. The girl was very grateful to her savior. Suddenly, a strange feeling came over her. She woke up on the bed and found herself completely tied up. The girl began to scream in fear, not understanding what Liu Lei could have done to her while she was sleeping. Miss Meng was very active yesterday, and he was so scared that he couldn't do anything other than tie her up. At that moment, the girl was strongly pestering him, and if he had not done this, everything could have ended differently. Meng was very embarrassed about yesterday's incident and asked the guy if he had done something to her. And the guy, being an honest person, replied that if he had taken advantage of the situation, he would have been no different from Long Xiao. After all, in the end, she wanted to be with the one she loved. The girl still felt awkward and did not understand how he could find her in such a state. When Liu Xiu left, he didn't notice her, and besides, Xuchai told him how Long Xiao was courting her, and he suspected that something was wrong, so he took Xuchang's car. When he hugged her tightly, she realized that happiness was there and nothing else mattered. Suddenly, the doors of the supermarket opened, and Chiyu walked in with a smile, calling for Brother Lei. She saw something that really shocked her. From the outside, it looked very strange. The guy immediately wanted to explain himself to Chiyu because everything was not as she thought. Out of shock, she began to slowly fall to the ground. It was hard for her to survive what she saw, and she fell unconscious. The events took place in the private hospital of the Lin family. Lei waited in the hospital corridor and saw Uncle Lin walking, and then immediately stood up. Fortunately, his daughter was fine, and the man asked Miss Meng to leave for a while as he needed to talk to Liu Lei. The girl slowly walked away and said that she would wait outside. The guy continued to ask about Chiu, as he was very worried about her, and the chairman told him about the hereditary disease that had manifested itself, and explained that the medicine Lei gave was temporarily controlling her condition, but observation was required. The guy in love realized that this medicine only supported her condition, and he would definitely find a real cure, and his uncle sincerely believed in him. Uncle Lin was in no hurry to discuss this and asked how he felt about Chiyu, and yesterday he said that he liked her and had something changed? The guy was a little shocked by this question, but boldly stated that now he is confused in his feelings. With incredible courage, he said that he would not hide it, and now he cannot sort out his feelings. After that, he asked his uncle to tell him when Chiyu would wake up, and at that moment, the man asked him if he loved Miss Meng. The hero answered with confidence that no. After all, now the main thing is to return Shenlei Group. The chairman liked this determination, and he patted the guy on the shoulder and asked him to protect Chiyu, since he is a real man. Chiyu will wake up anyway. The time had come when Lei needed to tell her what had happened. At this time, events continued to develop in the house of Long's godfather Sanchang, and Xiao approached him, asking him to avenge him, and Sanchang promised to take revenge, but noted that he must realize his mistake. His mistake was that he had not killed Liu Lei yet. The wise godfather denied this, and the first mistake was that he was easily manipulated and underestimated his enemy. And secondly, Meng Fuyao cannot love him, and he is trying to get her by force. The godfather sincerely despised Xiao and considered him shameless. Approaching Xiao, he began to voice the third reason, and at the same time, getting closer and closer, Xiao felt incredible fear. Sanchang looked at the guy arrogantly and said that he had disgraced him by calling him a useless piece of crap. The arrogant guy was confused. He was terribly afraid of his godfather and begged for forgiveness for his actions. The wise man forgave the guy this time, since he had already served him for many years, and what's more, he would hand over the store to him so that he would no longer go to Fengdu. Sighing with relief, Xiao began to thank his master because everything happened because of Liu Lei. Turning away from the guy, the godfather arrogantly told him not to worry, as next time they would not disgrace themselves, since there was a person who could handle Liu Lei. Meanwhile, events continued to unfold in the Liu family's home. Xiu tearfully complained to his mother that Liu Lei had gone too far and the Shenlei Group's reputation had suffered. The woman calmly responded to his indignation and advised him to establish good connections with organizations so that he could develop his skills in this business. And yet, he remained a failure, and Xiu began to make excuses, thinking that Liu Lei had serious connections and that's why everything was so it came out. The wise mother told him that she did not need to get involved with Liu Lei herself. Confused, the guy asked what to do in this case. With a devilish grin, she said that there would always be a person ready to carry out all her instructions for a certain reward. Sometime later, the man was talking on the phone at his estate about a certain deal, discussing a 5% stake. His name was the dark son of Yuan Xingje, and he answered the woman's phone, noting that she was very generous. The guy's target was Liu Lei, and he had to finish him off gracefully. While at the estate, the dark son instructed the mercenary to prepare well, since a new mission was coming soon. At the same time, the main character was in a store of otherworldly things. where the sage explained to him the effect of bone fluid and its source of nutrition was the internal arteries, so it increases physical strength, not energy. The guy asked how to be treated in this case, and the wise old man gave him his spiritual pearl, claiming that it could help. However, he also added that the immortal Liu Lei gave him a remedy that removes the smell of his sweat, but does not cure. The elder believed the immortal, but noticed that he did not know at all the composition and effect of what he was selling. The guy noticeably began to get nervous, because he really didn't know the composition of the drug that he gave to the elder. In the end, he was not at a loss and began to shout at them, wondering how they could not believe him, and the fat guy immediately fell to his knees and asked the immortal not to be angry. And Liu Lei pointed his finger at him and told Jin Debiao stood up because he wanted to give him something. The hero realized that he would probably have to give them something to make them more talkative. The guy provided them with mouthwash, recommending that they rinse their mouth 3 times a day, continuously, to effectively eliminate bad breath. Debiao quickly began to follow the advice and began to rinse his mouth. After rinsing, a pleasant aroma emanated from his mouth, and the elder was amazed at the effectiveness of the product. Liu Lei turned and pointed to the medicines he needed, then ordered. Jing Debiao gave him this medicine in exchange for 5 packs of mouthwash, and the elderly man immediately jumped up and also wanted to get something from the hero. The proud guy replied that he is always twice as generous to kind people as they are to him, but since the man doubted him, he would not receive anything. Plump Debiao carried the mission of the temple on his shoulders, always hoping for a good result of his work. And it was good that there were people like him in the temple. And for the sake of the temple, the old man begged Liu Lei to forgive him. Good-natured Lei waved his hand and said, okay. He is kind, so he will not count on him. For the sake of Jing Debiao, he agrees, but only for the first and last time, and the temple guards thanked him for his generosity. As a token of gratitude, they gave him spiritual pearls and also took with them other medicines, techniques, stones, and other useful items, because they had offended Lei. The enterprising hero was not stupid and also grabbed deodorants for the old man that would help him solve the problem he was facing. He was looking forward to using the rewards he received in another world. Also, an incredible feeling of joy came over him because he realized what a profitable exchange he had just made. In one exchange, he became rich, and if he sold this batch of goods, he could raise the level of his store. He realized that he needed to take spiritual pills only when he had enough of his own chi energy, and the guy was going to train it. Suddenly his phone rang. A familiar voice came from the phone, inviting him. It was Xu Chang. They met in a cafe with an open roof on the lakeside. In broad daylight, he wanted to make a big deal, which was incredibly daring. The astute Liu Lei noticed that Chang was dissatisfied with something, and Chang replied that Cao Cao fell in love with a rich and tall, handsome man. Chao's new boyfriend, Qiao. His name was Yuan Xingje. He was the brother of the Jiayuan electronics store owner, and he didn't do business at all. He only knew how to offend the weak, and he changed girls once a month, and the guys wondered how Cao Cao might have fallen in love with him. At this time, Yuan Xingze extended his hand and said that he wanted to take her to heaven with him. Cao Cao was captivated by this incredibly romantic proposal. Once they left in the helicopter, the men were shocked as they didn't understand how he took her away so easily, and Lei viewed it as a kidnapping. At some point, they decided to follow him and catch up with him. Sometime later, events continued at Xu Chang's house. They arrived at his house to gather and find out where Qiao was. Suddenly, someone began to enter the room. The girl in love entered the room with a huge bouquet of flowers and admired Yuan Xingze, considering him a romantic, and they flew to his personal palace, where a candlelit dinner awaited them, and then he gave her a huge bouquet of roses. But the men looked at it and were amazed seeing. Liu Lei immediately asked her why she trusted him so much, given that they had no connection, and the girl in love replied that he was handsome, kind, and could not deceive her. While the lovers exchanged affection, the evil Yuan Qingze swore that tomorrow he would isolate Liu Lei from society. Although Liu Lei was good at fighting, the wily romantic had something special in store for him. The next day, the destruction of Xu Chang's store began. When Chan approached to see who was doing the destruction, he saw world boxing champion Macron, who stated that he was on a mission. The next moment, there was a strong blow. He mistook Chang for Liu Lei and punched him in the stomach with force. Qiao Qiao was hysterical, worried about her brother. The world boxing champion noticed a beautiful girl and froze in place, unable to take his eyes off her. At this time, Yuan Qingze observed everything that was happening, stopped his car, and warned Qiao Qiao and Xu Chang warned them of the danger, telling them to escape from there. Then he sharply accelerated in his car. The world boxing champion smiled evilly and said that he had completed the boss's task. An unsuspecting Xu Chang stood next to his sister, not knowing that there was deceit behind the blow, and Yuan Qingze assumed that he knew who was behind it. He remembered that when Chu Ya hosted the wedding banquet, Liu Lei greatly disgraced her and suggested that if Xu Chang was associated with Liu Lei, he would take revenge on both. Xu Chang had to publicly announce the end of his relationship with Liu Lei to avoid future problems. He didn't want to be accused of cowardice over a petty quarrel and decided to reject the request aggressively. The obsessive Yuan Qingze asked. Qiao Qiao helped persuade him, warning that Liu Lei could bring a lot of problems, and the girl immediately took on the task, as she was worried about her brother and believed that such a step would be the best solution. Chan turned to his sister, asking her if she would leave her friend if her store was broken, and if she would leave her family if her house was broken. Yuan Qingze decided to set the atmosphere on fire, warning that today his store was destroyed by a boxer, and tomorrow he might return with a weapon. Suddenly, an idea dawned on Xu Chang. He realized that Yuan Qingze could not even know that it was a boxer, since he was not at the scene of the incident. The sister was also shocked because she thought she had found her true love. The liar gloated and asked why Chan was so smart, because he could have gotten out of there alive. Yuan Qingze called for help from the quiet snake killer Cha An, who has sharp claws and resembles a monster. As soon as Xu Chang saw the danger, he immediately sent his coordinates to his best friend Liu Lei to come to the rescue. The silent killer snake immediately began its attack on Chan. She stabbed him with her huge claws. After 15 minutes, Xu Chang found himself unconscious, all wounded, and Liu Lei saw this and was overcome with incredible rage. Liu Lei did his best to help him, placing his hand on his wounds and promising to think about how to stop the bleeding. The big man suddenly grabbed the guy by the arm. With the last of his strength, he asked to save his sister. Liu Lei remained calm, pressing his friend's hand to his wound, promising that he would definitely save his sister. Xingji seethed inside him. An incredible rage overcame him and he thirsted for revenge. While driving the car, the hero thought that perhaps he should use the chi energy from the spiritual pearls just in case. Boldly, Liu Lei arrived at Yuan Xingji Castle because his goal was to recapture Qiao Qiao. At that time, Yuan Qingze and the Qiao were in the villain's room in his dark tower. The girl felt uneasy, as the place was called scary. Liu Lei entered. Suddenly, he saw something in front of him that he did not expect. It was the boxing champion Macron, and on every floor, Liu Lei had top-level fighters waiting to fight him. The boxing champion was brought from South Africa for 4 million yuan, and he once defeated an entire gang of bandits. This champion is capable of delivering 10 blows per second, each of which can break a concrete wall 5 centimeters thick. Without waiting for the end of the dialogue, Liu Lei struck the champion with lightning speed, and he fell unconscious from one blow. The villain monitored what was happening with the help of CCTV cameras and monitors installed in his room. Even if he passed the first floor, a deadly challenge awaited him on the next. The killer, the world-famous quiet snake Cha-an, was waiting for him on the second floor. 7 million was paid for the appearance of the killer snake. The speed of the silent snake Cha-an was so high that even special cameras could not capture it. The killer's claws were full of poison, but Liu Lei stood calmly and activated his defense with qi. In one ridiculous blow, the killer broke her legendary claws. The guy easily neutralized her with a light blow to the head. Yuan Xingzhe was looking forward to the next floor and believed that he would definitely not defeat the next enemy. The girl waited for her savior and watched what was happening. The Iron Lucky One was waiting for him on the next floor. 100 million yuan was paid for him, and he was a master in the use of weapons. Without hesitation, Liu Lei pierced his opponent with a small cutlass, and he screamed in pain. The dirk was special. It had just been immersed in poison, and the opponent was on the verge of losing consciousness. The strongest opponent fell to the ground, white foam coming out of his mouth. Yuan Xingzhe hoped that Liu Lei would surrender, but his next opponent would be James, a demon killer and saw man who had killed hundreds of people. Qi magic on him, and with one magical attack, the enemy was completely immobilized. After that, it shattered into small pieces. All that was left of the legendary James was wet trash, dry trash, and metal trash. Yuan Xingzhe did not lose hope, because he longed to receive shares of Shenlei Group and director position of Jiayuan Company. Cao Cao no longer even believed the villain, and with an arrogant expression, told him not to even dream. The villain approached her and said that he is not dreaming, because this is reality, and she is the first witness of this new reality. The girl, after listening to his nonsense, told him to look behind him. This was the same main character who had already walked 4 floors without noticing them. He got bored going through these floors because there were incredibly many of them, and he didn't have time to enjoy them. Yuan Xingzhe was shocked and froze in place, unable to utter a word. The leader and the villain stared at each other. Liu Lei ordered Chao to be released. Chao. The villain was not going to give up. He told Liu Lei not to think that he had won, because he was not as stupid as Mr. Long and had always prepared his plans well. Lei looked at him mockingly because Mr. Yuan had already compared himself to Mr. Long. It was a shame for him. Suddenly, Yuan Xingzhe began to drink the elixir of strength from the bone fluid. Instantly, he felt an incredible sensation that he had never experienced before. Yuan Xingzhe considered himself beautiful, strong, perfect, and he was extremely pleased with himself, and Lei immediately realized that this was not ordinary bone fluid. Liu Lei immediately knew that he needed to attack while the villain was trying to make an impression. The villain immediately noticed that Liu Lei was heading towards him. At the same time, he moved slowly, as if his grandmother. With one powerful blow, the muscular Xingzhe knocked Lei to the ground. Meanwhile, Liu Lei seemed to be up to something serious, and it was not just like that. Lei could not understand where this liquid came from and asked the villain where he got it. His friend, a beautiful and sweet lady, gave him this liquid, and he refused it. Shenlei Group didn't deserve to be strong. He was so stupid. The hero tried to end this fight and began to get up, but Yuan Xingzhe could not understand how Liu Lei was able to get up. The villain realized that the only way to end this fight was to kill Lei. With a powerful and lightning-fast blow, Liu Lei hit the villain right in the stomach, and he screamed in pain. Having no experience in fighting, his huge muscles were useless. Yuan Xingzhe was persistent and confident that he had the perfect plan. He took a pistol out of his pocket. He targeted the hero, trying to kill him. Liu Lei was easily overcome by panic, but he was able to concentrate. Cao Cao screamed, realizing that Liu Lei was in danger. Xingzhe fired his pistol. Xingzhe grinned and said that a meeting with a cannon will always help a fighter. Surprisingly, Liu Lei continued to stand on his feet using qi magic. Catching the bullet with his bare hands, his powerful muscles only slightly grazed Lei. He was convinced that even bone fluid did not help Yuan Xingje. The assassin offered Lei a brotherly talk when he realized his vulnerability. Lei was approaching, agreeing to discuss everything, but a powerful blow was released in his direction on behalf of Xu Chang. Liu Lei raised. Cao Cao took him in his arms and told Mr. Yuan that he was not going to take revenge, abandoning hope for the end of the conflict. The guy left, asking not to return to him with new problems. An annoyed Yuan Xingze tried to detain him, believing that the story was not over yet. He was in great pain and begged for help. Suddenly, behind the villain's back, someone with gloves covered his mouth and warned that everyone would find out about what happened here. Sometime later, Lei and Qiao visited Xu Chang in the room of the private hospital of the Lin family, and the girl thanked the hero, realizing that without his help, they could have serious problems. And Lei was happy to help, because Xu Chang was his bro, and I couldn't leave him in trouble. The guy smiled and asked the girl to simply call him Brother Lei, without unnecessary ceremony. Qiao seemed to come to life and began calling the hero Lei's brother. Soon, Liu Lei visited the Liu family's store and asked the system to transport him to the other world, holding new gifts for immortals in his hands. A bright light shone around him. The system informed Lei that the store's income was 1 million yuan, and the store's level was upgraded to a poor stall, and there were changes in the appearance of the store. The time spent in the other world increased to 20 minutes, and the tough nut reward was received. The friends from the other world were very happy to see him and brought him a trade deal, and in addition, Elder Wang had prepared a gift for him as an apology. Lei turned out to be much smarter than they expected, because he did not need such excessive politeness, and he just wanted to ask them questions about something else. And he also noticed how one guy took a pill, after which his muscles swelled up significantly. Qi Shake pill usually gives this effect, and although it has a temporary effect of increasing strength, the side effects can be harmful to health. The old man wondered where the immortal saw the effect of this pill, while Lei asked questions about how rare this pill was. The elder began to get nervous because his former student Wang Lei had broken the temple rules and sold these pills to other students so that they could pass the certification dishonestly, which led to his expulsion. If he were forgiven, then all the students could be in danger. Lei immediately understood what had happened. He guessed that Qing also had a connection with the other world, and now he was afraid that he would have big problems. Fatty wanted to make one deal for the return pill with an immortal, but he could only do it once. Lei was very surprised and immediately asked if he could get more pills. The ingredient for creating the pills is located on Mount Qinggan, but recently, dark energy has appeared there, and now many monsters are roaming there. The guy wanted to find a way out of this situation and asked if there were any other pills, as well as bone fluid, which could also be exchanged. And the elder replied that if he did not go to Qinggan Mountain, the alchemist would not have the necessary ingredients. The hero immediately realized that the immortals wanted him to help them, but he had little time. One idea came to Elder Wang's mind. If the immortal could master the Gushan teleportation technique, then there was a chance, while Lei began to get nervous, since he did not understand what it was. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a girl appeared who heard that someone was looking for her. It was the princess of the country of Gushan, Hongshu. The immortals immediately bowed to the princess and wished her good health. But she was very angry that the fat man appeared here without warning and did not even tell her, which is why she had to find the way herself. Hongshu looked around to find a potion shop. She took the first object she came across and began to examine it. Suddenly, she turned to Lei and said that his place was so-so, and the guy was indignant and called her a girl, claiming that everything was fine here. The princess also took offense at being called a girl. Suddenly, he began to rise into the air, not understanding what was happening. The girl was still offended and shouted that she was a real princess. She asked the guy to stop and not run away, but he couldn't stop. After teleporting, he found himself back in his supermarket. To Lei, Hongshu seemed like a spoiled child, and he did not know how to conduct transactions now. As the store level increases, the owner is no longer dependent on the system, and however, if he fails to raise the store to the third level with a turnover of 10 million yuan within a month, the system will confiscate all bonuses. The guy was literally beside himself with indignation as he considered this system unfair and fraudulent. Soon, Liu Lei began to think about how to earn 10 million in a month, and at the moment it seemed to him that this could only be done through the sale of the elixir of return. The spiritual pill was finally charged. The guy was ready to use it for its intended purpose, since at this moment it would be useful for him to visit the Lin family. The hero arrived at Ling Chuya's chamber, who had been absorbing all the energy from the spiritual pill for several days and was soon to wake up. He also had a request for Uncle Lin and wanted to talk to him about something. In the restroom, Liu Lei showed Uncle Lin the return elixir that the Liu family produced, and this potion had an unusual effect. Uncle Lin was wary because he didn't know what to expect from this potion. After 30 seconds, he felt the same effect. This elixir was the best among the rest in the market, and he asked his uncle if he could increase his sales during this month with its help. And Lin immediately informed him that in order to register the drug, he had to go through the registration process, which was quite lengthy. And then he asked if he had a prescription for this drug. The guy began to worry and made excuses by saying that this was a family secret recipe and his uncle did not dare to help since he was not sure of the composition of the drug. Lai made a suggestion that perhaps he could wedge his elixir into the healthcare products department. To do this, it was necessary to obtain the consent of Mr. Chi, but the uncle did not have any connections with him. The uncle warned that it was better not to pester him with his problems, and Lei immediately realized that this idea was useless. The hero had to go, and he asked if he should leave the elixir, but his uncle refused, since he still needed to treat patients. When Lei returned to the supermarket, he realized that everything was not going as smoothly as he would like, and he needed to replenish the goods. Otherwise, the system would deprive him of many bonuses, and then he would not be able to take revenge on Qing. The guy took the box with him just in case and asked the system to move him to a parallel world. Instantly, he was met by the princess, who began to shout that he was another daredevil here, because last time he dared to run away and did not listen to her. Immortal Chubby also succumbed to the influence of the princess and was beaten, and he began to make excuses for Lei, saying that he had too much to do and not enough time. The guy immediately realized that it looked like Jin Debiao was badly hurt, and to calm the princess down, he tried to intervene, but she did not allow him to speak. The princess was incredibly capricious, and Lei shouted at her that since she had come to him for a deal, she needed to behave according to his rules. The impudent princess started using fire magic and asked if this barn could have rules, and she threatened to burn it down right now. The spoiled girl also said that she could destroy everything in the store and she would not get anything for it. She began trashing all the potion shelves in the store, making Lei nervous. He realized that now he needed to seriously resolve the situation with the princess. Suddenly, the girl was about to attack him and use her power. She mockingly declared that a weakling like him would not be able to reproach her. And she used magic directly on him. The princess lifted the guy straight into the sky and made him levitate. Lei began to feel sad, realizing that this girl was not ordinary. Her strength was many times greater. Then he remembered the system bonus called a tough nut to crack. Lei ordered the system to activate Die Hard to show the princess his true power. The system clarified whether he is sure that he wants to use the one-time ability Die Hard. Perspiration was running down the guy's face, and he could have died, but the system asked him the wrong question. Finally, he decided to activate Die Hard. The princess mockingly said that Lei was just a deceiver, not an immortal. This only angered the guy even more because she attacked his store and he decided to punish her. The hero activated his diehard ability and a huge dragon appeared around him. Looking at the crying princess, Lei began to feel a little guilty, and he did not want to scare or scold her so much, but his irritation was at its peak. The princess continued to beg for mercy, promising not to touch his store again and follow his rules. Lei eventually relented and lifted her punishment, and he laughed at himself and how they both went too far. But in the end, they could find common ground and agree. To see if intimidation would work, the guy decided to use the eyes of agreement to see if she was playing the role of the poor thing. According to eye analysis, her parents are very busy with government affairs and do not pay attention to her, so she attracts his attention with such methods. The hero thought, because he thought that she was being pampered, but it turned out that her parents simply forgot about her. He paid attention to her because he knew that she needed more attention from her parents, and he was not going to cater to her whims, but if she grew up and began to help her parents, she would have more opportunities to spend time with them. But the princess was surprised. After all, she didn't tell anyone about it. Lei was glad that he saw her vulnerability and understood why she acted the way she did. The little girl did not know at all how to grow up. They first needed to start with mutual respect, but Hongshu quickly tidied up the room in just 10 minutes. She later changed her behavior in front of Lei, saying that she wouldn't do it again. When the girl changed her mind, Lei decided to give her a gift. The gift was in the form of a mirror with ears that looked like a kitten, and she was very happy about such a gift. The time for the deal came to an end, and the main character said goodbye to the inhabitants of another world. This time, Wang Hen did not show up, so the deal was made with one batch of return pills. Suddenly, the guy received a message from Yao Yao, in which she asked if he was busy. Sometime later, they met in a cafe, and he told Miss Man that he was always free for her. The girl was very serious and did not accept his jokes, saying that now was not the time for them. Yuan Xingze disappeared, and the girl heard that Lei was looking for him earlier and believed that he was not a killer, but something was wrong, so he should have been more careful. The guy thanked her for her care and said that he would never forget her kindness. Miss stirred the coffee seriously and asked him to be more serious. His phone rang again, and it was Liu Xiu, who asked why Lei was not in the store. Because he ruined Liu's wedding, Xiu, he wanted to take revenge, but he was advised not to rush back to the store, otherwise he would ruin everything. Leia suddenly panicked and didn't know what to do in this situation. The guy could not understand how the impudent man dares to destroy the inheritance of the Liu family, since he would never forgive him for this.